Hi, it's nice to talk to you again. I know our
Yeah,
last conversation was very short, so I barely got to talk to you, but
it
it's nice.
was. Well, thanks for chatting with us, Jamie. It's appreciated.
I appreciate talking to you, and I'm enjoying this show. It's a good show. But talk about what was it that made you want to be a part of Rebus?
How many episodes have you watched? Just out of interest.
I'm halfway through. I'm
Oh,
trying to
you
get
have? Okay, well
exactly
done.
halfway through.
Well done. Nice one. And do you require subtitles? Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I'm
We've
honest,
got
yeah.
we've got the accent's heavy. The accent's heavier on this than you might have be used to hearing me speak also. Um, what was it that made me want to do this? The script, I think. I think it was the writing. I'm a big fan of Gregory Buck. I've worked with him before. I'm a big fan of Ian Rankin and his writing. And his series of books are obviously hugely popular. In fact, there's one just come out and it hit the top spot, and I think it's still in the top 10. And I think that's sort of indicative of the quality of writing that you're going to get. So with that, you're going to have particularly well thought out, complex characters from which to draw from, and that interests me alone. So that kind of quite quickly suggests to me that it's not going to be a standard procedural crime show, which I didn't want to do. I didn't want to play a detective in a crime show, and
Right.
that in itself is very mainstream, and there's a lot of it, and a lot of it's very good. But there's an appetite for it, obviously. But it's not something that particularly interested me at the moment. But this character, I thought, had the potential to be very different and very original, in spite of the fact that it's been done a couple of times before, like many years ago, and the Ian Rankin's protagonist has been going for something like 25 books. So the fact that it still felt like it could be original and fresh and a different approach in this genre made a lot of sense to me, uh, as to why I would want to do it. And I'm glad I did, because it was everything that I thought it was going to be. It's not typically a kind of a procedural crime show. It seems more of a sort of a character drama to me. The story is really in these characters, and it's in these characters' relationships with one another, and that sort of carries the drama through the season. This is a really long question to a simple answer, but that's that's the answer.
So, other than the script and the books, obviously, where did you kind of get, I guess, your inspiration becoming him? Like, did you pull it from anywhere else, and how did you make it your own? Since there are other versions of it.
Oh God, I didn't touch any of the other versions. No, that wouldn't be helpful at all. No, I started with the books. I sort of took a selection of books that I thought would be helpful. I started with the first one, which I think was Noughts and Crosses. And then I took a couple of suggestions from Gregory Buck. Um, the first series was kind of loosely drawn from Even Dogs in the Wild, if I remember correctly. And I also read Heart Full of Headstones, because I think that was the one that had just come out. So it gave me a sort of a way to triangulate the character, I think. Um, but we were also shifting the age of the character as well. So Rebus in this, our adaptation, is younger than he would have been, and younger certainly than he is now. Um, so I suppose that was the thing I latched on to the most, was what would Rebus be like with a bit more youth and vitality. What would a younger version of this man be like? He was also he was also in the army when he was younger, and I think that had a large impact on his life. And he was then later selected for the SAS, and I think again that had a bit of but I think that kind of informed the
Mhm.
sort of psychological state of this man. So I suppose the books and the script, a lot of chats with Gregory Buck on how he imagined this character to be. He had, I mean, I kind of had free reign. I think we trusted each other in terms of actor and writer, and certainly the director, Neil McCormick. So they gave me a lot of room to move with this character, which was great.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's always a good thing when they let you kind of do your own thing. So was there any other than the research, like what kind of other prep was there? I'm assuming you maybe did gun training. I don't know, talk to police. What was the, beforehand like, I guess?
No, not so much. I mean, this is probably the third or fourth detective I've played, certainly the third or fourth cop I've played. So there wasn't really that much to look at in terms of what would mean for Rebus. He's also quite contrary as well, so he tends to go against the grain a little bit in terms of how he does things. He's actually quite old-fashioned himself. My dad was a cop, and on my first two jobs playing a cop, I kind of garnered as much information as I could from him. And, Rebus is a bit of a rule breaker. Everything's a means to an end for him, but if he can go by a circuitous route, it's usually quite a kind of a self-destructive route. Then I think he'll take that, and I think you need to know the law first in order to
Mhm.
break it. And I think he is. I think that's kind of how he functions.
Did you have, especially because he kind of does go down that road, did you have any trouble like connecting with him? Was there anything you had trouble getting into character with?
I struggled a little bit with the. I struggled at first, and then it started to fall into place with his relationship with Maggie. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
His
yeah,
mentor's wife,
yes.
which I thought for another one of the characters, maybe we would maybe accept that, but from our protagonist,
Yeah, it
is
was
the audience,
surprising.
is the audience going to get on board with this? And I said to the writer, and he's like, "No, he's like the way you play it and the sort of the character that you bring to it, and this sort of self-loathing man who is quite self-destructive, almost self-harms
Mhm.
psychologically. In a way, he just always feels like he has to take the hard route, like he has to have a hard life. And uh, it kind of explains to me that all these things, the audience, if we do it right, the audience are going to ultimately understand this relationship. They're going to understand where she is and where he is, and there's other factors that you've probably not come to yet, um, which inform that. But at first, I thought, I can't, I don't, I think this is a bad idea. I didn't protest too much because I do trust the writer so much. In another world, if it was a writer that I wasn't maybe so familiar with, or one that maybe I didn't have the same sort of respect for, I'd maybe have questioned that a bit more. But it was something that I initially had questions over in terms of how that would play.
Yeah, I was gonna say it starts out the very beginning though, he almost kills somebody too. So
That
he's
I had no issues with. I got that. I bought that. It was
yeah,
one of the things that drew me into the. You asked me about the reasons I wanted to do the show. A large part of it was that opening sequence. I
yep.
thought, oh, okay, we're not doing things in a conventional way here at all.
No,
We're one
not.
thing, taking things very sort of out there in terms of how you'd expect this show to start. And I think it says so much about the tone of the show, about the character, about his temperament,
Mhm.
about his how short his fuse can be,
Mhm.
and about how he can just have a flash of temper with no warning. That did so much for me going forward because I could just rely on that, just that twinkle in the eye that suggests that he might be about to snap, and you don't know whether or not he will. So that opening sequence I thought was brilliantly written and brilliantly executed, and I kind of just had to turn up, really.
Yeah, and it's good too because it sort of starts, I don't want to say in the middle, but I mean it feels like it when you first start watching it. Like you don't expect it to start right there. You know what I mean? So yeah, it works. It's definitely a good opening. So
Yeah, it
talk
does kind of start in the middle because it's not quite like those things that kind of that kind of mechanic of dropping in at the end, and then you had then the entire series is a flashback. I don't know how keen I am on that convention, although a lot of times it works. But you're right, it kind of drops in the middle of something. Actually, it is a year ago, but anyway.
Yeah, but it works. So talk about his relationship with his brother, because obviously that's a big part of the drama.
Yeah, I mean, it's Ian Rankin himself said to Gregory when he'd read it that he felt like he had missed a trick with that relationship of Michael and John. Uh, Obviously, they're from not similar, they're from the same upbringing, but but find themselves in very different circumstances. They were both in the army, and I think that informs both of them in terms of how they are now as men. Um, but and they certainly both have a bit of a volatility and a very, very complex relationship. I think they have a lot of love for one another, but I think just their circumstances bring them to a bit of a clash. Uh, and we look at that in detail with Brian's character, with Michael Rebus, in terms of how they're struggling for cash and they've got two kids and they're kind of being, you know, they kind of find themselves sort of let down, I think, kind of by society. I think a lot of that's what the show is kind of about. Obviously, being an ex-soldier and a bit of a lack of support there, and just generally struggling. So Rebus finds himself because of that, mainly because of that. There are other things going on, but he's kind of straddling the law himself. So and it's I think Michael's story in itself is very exciting, and I think Brian plays it superbly. I think Brian is an incredible actor. I've always had a lot of respect for him, but it also serves a very interesting purpose for Rebus because it does pull him in the direction that's most dangerous for someone like Rebus,
Yeah.
who's kind of struggling anyway to keep things in line. He's, he's struggling to keep things in check in his personal life and in his work. The last thing he needs is his brother going rogue and mercenary. It's like that's maybe just an ingredient too much for him, I think. So it's a fascinating sort of parallel through the season, I think, which ends brilliantly, I think.
Okay. Well, I'm being told we need to wrap, but just really quick, are there more seasons coming? I mean, I assume there could be more books, but I wasn't sure if there was more coming. I hope so.
Well, just stay tuned. Uh, get it out there in the States. Spread the word, Jamie, and we might be able to do that. Well, let's see if you enjoy the rest of the season first. You might not like it.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest. I ran out of time where I would have watched the rest, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Great. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I did. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And
So,
good luck with everything and looking forward to more Outlander too. So
coming soon.
yeah. All right. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Jamie. Thank you.